Go ahead and introduce yourself. And Craig will be leading us tonight all on Element 20.
Hi, guys. I'm glad to be here tonight. Just real quick, a little bit about me. Back in 2019, I was having health problems. High blood sugar, high blood pressure, you name it. So I started fishing around and trying the different programs like a lot of us have, and then found Optavia, and really, again, was life-changing, like many of us know. So I went from 250 plus down to 185 in 4 months. Now I got on to lose a few pounds. What I didn't realize was how much better I was going to feel. And the reason I started feeling better was a lot of the inflammation I was experiencing, the pain, the aches, all the stuff that associated with being older now. Those all disappeared. So, whoa, that was cool. Anyhow, Dr. Anderson's provided this wonderful life book. He happens to have Element 20. Let me go to screen share. And he talks about this. And he teaches us about maximizing our anti-inflammation protection. So anyhow, a little bit more background on me. I work at the University of Florida. I'm in the College of Medicine. I do research, not specifically related to inflammation, but it all kind of ties in together. The immune system. Several years ago, we had a professor do a seminar talking about how inflammation impacted us and was thought to be a causative factor for Alzheimer's. Not just the aches and pains that we feel, but the actions in our bodies that we don't necessarily feel, that are all impacted by the inflammatory process. And if you think about it, just when you're going through the store, through the drugstore, through the grocery store, whatever, the number of products that they have on the shelf that all relate to inflammation, from the insoles to put into our shoes, to the big bottles, giant bottles of the anti-inflammatories that we probably all have. So it really impacts everybody's life. And we just accept it as being a normal process. So let's get into the program. So even our mindset comes into effect the inflammation that we experience. So we're going to talk about a little bit about mindset. We're going to talk about some of the skills. Really kind of stepping back and taking a look at what we are doing in our lives and how that is impacting the inflammation that we experience. And then we'll talk about a few things that we can do to lower the inflammation. So as Dr. Anderson says, here, our immune system, it's our own personal 24/7 on-call emergency service. So it is there to serve a purpose. It is, it's important for healing. When we have an injury, the inflammation that we experience in that area, it calls in different cells in our body to start the healing process. So it's good, but it can go out of and cause problems. So that also has a darker side. So some of the importance of our immune system. So, this kind of looks familiar, right? So all of these 6 elements here all tie in to inflammation and why we need to control all of these to reach optimal health. So here we go. So some of the things that cause inflammation. So we take in too many calories, the highly refined grains that the food industry, kind of forces on us, and we don't even think about it, or hadn't before we came to Optavia. We hadn't thought about it. The sugars, high fructose corn syrup, omega-6 fats. We have the omega-3s that are good, got the omega-6 that can be not so good. Too much saturated fat, trans fats, overcooking our food. All of those contribute to, as it says here, oxidative stress in our body. So then we have the environmental chemicals and toxins, the stress that we feel. You get stressed, that leads to triggering the inflammatory processes, the allergens, the environmental allergens, pollens, molds, etc. Sunlight, you get a sunburn, too much UV light, you get a sunburn, boom, triggers inflammation. And then the radiation. Those are all in our external environment. So then we have our internal environment. If you're prone to chronic infections, sinus infections, ear infections, cellulitis, we're too heavy. Just carrying that extra visceral fat, not getting enough sleep to recover from the stresses, too much antibiotics, lack of motion, not being out and moving, getting our body moving, and then even depression can lead to inflammation. So it all creates this cycle. We go into oxidative stress, which causes free oxygen radicals, which are really nasty little molecules that kind of travel around in our body and cause problems, leading to this inflammation. And that kind of can set up a cascade where it just kind of starts rolling down the hill. It can be a problem to stop. So again, the food that we eat can cause inflammation. You look at the label on some of those chips and cookies and stuff that we used to eat, the processed foods that we used to eat, and some of the ingredients you can't even pronounce. Those are food items that cause inflammation. And then something we really overlook, and I tend to overlook too, overcooking and charring our food on the grill. That leads to inflammation. So if you look at the pro-inflammatory, the items that cause inflammation in our typical diet, Dr. Anderson has it broken down. 10% of even the good foods that if we overeat them, they can cause inflammation. Dairy products, 20%, the meat we eat, poultry, eggs, fish. Then we get into the refined omega-6 seed oils, the palm oil, the canola oil, stuff like that. That's why when we're making our lean grains, we want to use healthy fats, healthy oils, like olive oil. Again, the refined grains, if anything that says refined in front of it, you can pretty much knock that up as to not being good for you. So then refined sugars, none of us ever ate any of that, I'm sure. So, but on the other side, we have food items that can lessen inflammation. So the omega-3 fatty acids, we have the things like flaxseed, canola, walnut, olive oil. Some are better than others, but those are good oils. The fish, oily fish, mackerel, sardines, herring. I'm not a big sardine person myself, but any of the kind of tuna family fishes that have healthy oils, the omega-3 oils. Then flaxseed, walnuts, pecans are healthy. They have healthy fats in them. Soybeans, tofu is made from the soybean. Those have high levels of omega-3 fatty acids. And then our leafy greens, which among other things also have omega-3s. The not so good oils, the corn, cottonseed, safflower, sesame oil, soybean oil. While the soy protein can be good, the oils can be not so good. So that's a kind of a dual food. The margarines, I've heard that margarine was to fatten up turkeys. So that was before it hit the market as a butter substitute. And then anything that's ultra processed foods, foods that seem to last forever on the shelf with preservatives, other chemical additives, anything like that, all of those are going to be pro-inflammatory. They're going to cause us to not feel good. And if you've been on plan for any length of time at all, like me, and you eat some of those things, you can pretty much feel it almost immediately, especially the next day. You're going to feel it. Some of these aches and pains are just not going to feel right in your stomach. You've eaten something that's not good. So what do we want to do? We want to be careful about what we do on the grill. I'm a big grill guy, so this is tough. But you can watch the overcooking and putting too much char on your meats on the grill. You could use a flat top cooker instead. But you just need to be careful about using grilling foods. We want to make sure we're getting a high level of omega-3 fatty acids. We're going to follow our lean and green chart. And we're going to choose the low glycemic fruits and vegetables to provide more of the good fats, less of the bad fats, and just more of the nutrients that we really need to fuel our body. Fiber the underrated food source to us. If you talk about people or you talk restaurant industry, and they can reuse their fry oils a certain number of times. You expose an oil to high heat, you're creating more free radicals and bad components to it that cause it to be more damaging than it was in its original state. And then we want to add flavor by adding in our whole herbs and spices. And I like to cook, so in fact, you may notice that I am in my new house. The cabinets are installed, they're not done yet, but right about down there is going to be a roll-out spice cabinet because I have so many spices. I love adding flavor to foods with spices. There are just so many wonderful flavors from around the world to add into our foods. So being healthy doesn't mean you have to eat boring. It doesn't mean you have to be in a rut. I've made more restaurant quality meals since being on Optavia than I ever did before, just because I started being adventurous and challenging myself to cook in a healthy manner and adding in different spices to bring in flavor that used to add by cooking with a lot of fat or the stuff we used to call bacon grease, especially being in the South. That's like a condiment is bacon grease. No, we don't want to do that anymore. We want to go try out different things now. So the internal environment that we have, we want to take care of. If you're prone to chronic infections and sinus, and I was, you know what? Since losing that 65 pounds or so, I don't have as many sinus infections as I used to have. I don't have as many ear infections. Guess what? All that fat was deposited in my airways and so forth. It had sleep apnea, so that's setting yourself up for infection also. But just by following our wonderful health program, we're going to help with that. Losing our visceral fat. That's what we're all here to do. We're getting it done, making it happen. Lack of sleep. We need to have that recharge time to let our body recover. While we're sleeping, our body is dealing with some of the free oxygen radicals that we form during the day, just as a part of going through the day. So that's just another benefit of getting enough sleep. We need to watch how often we're taking antibiotics. When I was having all these sinus infections and so forth, antibiotics all the time, and that certainly didn't help. It just, that whole unhealthy cascade that we didn't even think about, all that's gone away now that we're into our programs. Then as we get into our programs and we're adding in, that's getting our body primed to move towards optimal health. It reduces the inflammation. The more we move, the less inflammation we have. The less we move, the more inflammation. But when we have inflammation, we don't necessarily feel like moving. But you got to just break through that barrier. So stress, dealing with depression, take time out for self-care. And by self-care, I mean being able to step out of your stressful environment, whatever stress you're experiencing. Building this house, trust me, it's stressful. You got to be able to step away from that for at least a little bit of time. Something like yoga, meditation, prayer. Take time to focus and calm yourself, calm your mind, calm your spirit. Take a breath, and then go back to living your life. All of that will help relieve the stress, which in turn lessens the inflammation that your body is experiencing. And then have fun. Have fun. Laughter's the best medicine. Yeah, have fun. Intentionally maintain a positive mindset. Yeah, sometimes you get in a rut and you have to step back again and say, look, no, I need to flip the script here. This isn't good. This isn't good. You can almost feel yourself going down that and getting caught up in the drama triangle. Got to step back. Be appreciative of what's going on around you. What is there? Take a look around at the creation around you. Take a walk. Whatever you can do to kind of flip the script and show gratitude for everything that you are experiencing, because it's all leading to you to the future person that you're going to be. So how can we deal with the external environment? If there's you see it on the news, you see it all around, the different chemicals and toxins that are in our environment that we have to live in, and the stress, the allergens, the sun. So we can do things like sunscreen. Even better is wearing protective clothing when we're going out into the sun. When we're going out for a healthy motion, there's all kinds of clothes now that have a UPF rating on them. You want to go ahead and cover up. That way we're not using as much of the sunscreen. While it's good, it is still an unnatural chemical we're adding. We want to avoid the burn. We want to avoid exposing the largest organ in our body, which is the skin, to excess UV light, which causes inflammation. The chemicals and toxins, we want to take our showers, wash off the dirt and chemicals of the day that we've been exposed to that have accumulated on us, and avoid them as much as we can. So some things you can do by controlling your environment, having some plants in your house. Different plants can filter air real well. So I think it's the snake plant is probably the most well known for that. Have that in your office or in your house, living room. Incorporate those. Incorporate HEPA filters to filter out some of the bacteria and mold that are circulating around in our air. Drinking plenty of clean water. Hydration is anti-inflammatory. Staying properly hydrated. And then just taking care of our environment. Keeping it picked up and clean. Vacuuming. The noise pollution that adds to our stress and adds to our just the noise in our brains. Control the noise pollution that's around us. So hopefully through this, I know we've kind of jetted through a little bit, but will cause us to take a step back, take a look at our lives, how we're living, what we can do to reduce the effects of our environment on our body. So I'm going to take this time, step out, open it up. Are there any questions that you would like to have? Or does anybody have anything they'd like to add?
Well,
Anybody?
we just want to thank Craig for leading tonight, and thank you all. I know we've run just a little bit over time, so we thank you for staying on with us. And thanks so much, Craig, for leading and for your knowledge with anti-inflammation. We appreciate that. Y'all have a great week. We will see you next week, and don't forget to check in with your coach. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Bye.